I spent a week deliberately breaking my own N8N workflows, and I mean breaking them on purpose, not debugging them. I wanted to know exactly how they die when nobody is watching, and almost none of them died loudly. They died quietly, in the middle of the night, and they kept looking perfectly healthy on the canvas while they did it. Everyone building automations right now is asking the same three questions. Which node do I use? Which model is best? Which template should I copy? But the real question is the one that almost nobody asks, and it is the only one your clients will ever care about. What happens when this thing breaks? Because it will break. And the difference between an automation that works and an automation that survives is the entire job you are actually being paid for. By the end of this video, you will have 4 patterns you can add to any workflow you have already shipped without rebuilding anything. I will show you the finished system working first, then build every piece of it node by node. I have broken all of it myself, repeatedly, and that is the only reason I can tell you with any confidence that it holds. But before I show you the fix, you need to see what a silent failure actually looks like, because most people have never watched one happen properly. It is 2 in the morning and a webhook fires. The API on the other end is down for 90 seconds, not an hour, just 90 seconds. Your HTTP node times out and the workflow stops dead. No email arrives, no notification of any kind. The execution list shows one red row that nobody opens until Thursday afternoon. And your client's lead sat in a form for 3 days. Or it goes the other way, which is genuinely worse. The workflow does not stop at all, it half runs. The invoice node fires twice because the trigger retried, and your client's customer gets charged twice. The CRM now holds 2 records for one person, and your dedupe step only runs tomorrow, so their sales team spends a day calling the same lead twice. You did not get an alert for that one either. Nothing went red, and everything looked completely fine. And here is the part that actually costs you the account. You find out when they tell you. That is the trap, and it is worth being precise about it. It is not that automations fail, because everything fails eventually. It is that yours fail without telling anybody, and you built them that way without ever deciding to. Building the automation is the easy 20%. What happens when it fails is the job. So let me show you the finished thing before I explain a single piece of it. This is my main workflow, and there is nothing clever about it. A form trigger, an enrichment call, a database write, and a notification at the end. And this is what happens when I break it on purpose. I am going to point that HTTP node at an endpoint that does not exist, and then run the whole thing. Watch the canvas first. The node goes red and the workflow stops, and normally that is all you would get. Now watch my inbox. 14 seconds later, there is an email sitting there waiting for me. The subject line already tells me which workflow died and which node died inside it before I have even opened it. And the body has the error message and the full failed payload underneath, so I can see the exact record that was in flight at the moment everything stopped. And I did not open N8N to learn any of that, because it came to me. Now watch what happens when I restart that same execution. The record does not duplicate. The invoice does not fire a second time. It picks up cleanly from where it stopped. And that is the whole system. And it is only 4 patterns. I call it trap, because a trap is exactly what you are building. Something that catches failures before your client does. Trap, retry, alert, protect. Let me build each one properly. The first is trap, and if you only implement one thing from this entire video, make it this one. N8N has a feature called an error workflow, and most people never switch it on, even though it is a single setting. You build one workflow, one time. It starts with an error trigger node, and that node does nothing until another workflow fails, at which point it receives the entire failure context automatically. And then you open any workflow settings, find the error workflow dropdown, and select the one you just built. And that is genuinely it. You now have a net underneath that workflow. But the thing most people miss is that this is not per workflow labor. You build the net once, and you point everything you own at the same one. So the 40th workflow costs you exactly as much effort as the second. The second pattern is retry. Almost every node in N8N has a retry on fail setting buried in its settings tab, and it is switched off by default. Turn it on for anything that touches a network. HTTP requests, API calls, database writes. Set maximum tries to 3, and the wait between tries to at least 1,000 milliseconds. That 90-second outage I described at the start disappears completely with 3 retries and a rising wait. The workflow never fails, and nobody ever finds out that anything happened. But I want to be honest about the cost, because it is the part that usually gets left out. Retries are not free. Every retry is another API call, and if you are paying per call, then you are paying 3 times to process one record. On a workflow handling real volume, that is genuine money leaving your account every month. But do not retry everything blindly. Retry the things that fail because of the network, and let the things that fail because of your own logic fail loudly and immediately. A bad field mapping should never be retried, because it will fail identically 3 times, and you will just find out later than you should have. That distinction between transient failures and logic failures is most of the actual skill here. The third pattern is alert. Your error workflow is catching failures now, but catching them is completely useless if you never learn that it happened. So inside your error handler, add a Gmail node. And this next part is the bit that matters more than anything else in this section. Do not simply send yourself the words "workflow failed." Structure the subject line. I use the word alert in capitals, then the workflow name, then the node that failed, and that is the whole subject. That sounds like a small detail, and it is not. A structured subject line is searchable. So 6 months from now, you can search one workflow name and see every time it is ever broken. That tells you very quickly which of your automations is actually fragile. Then put 4 things in the body: the workflow name again, the node that failed, the error message itself, and the actual input data that was in flight when everything stopped. That last one is the difference between a 2-minute fix and an hour of blind guessing. When you can see the failed payload, you can usually spot the malformed record immediately, and the answer becomes obvious the moment you look at it. And all of that is already sitting in the error triggers output. It is there by default. Most people simply never map it into the email. And there is a trade-off here too. It is genuinely possible to over-alert yourself. If every tiny failure lands in your main inbox, you will start skimming past them within about a week. And an alert you ignore is worse than no alert at all, because it gives you false confidence. So build a Gmail filter on that alert prefix. Send the noisy, low-stakes workflows to a label you review once a day. And let only the ones that touch money or client data reach your main inbox. And one more thing that almost nobody thinks about. Your error handler can fail too. If Gmail rejects the send or the credential expires, your net has a hole in it and you will not be told. So once a month, break something on purpose and confirm the email actually arrives. That takes 2 minutes, and it is the only way to know your safety net still exists. The fourth pattern is protect, and this is the one that separates people who have shipped client work from people who have only built demos. This is idempotency. The word sounds academic, and the idea is not. Idempotent means running the same operation twice produces the same result as running it once. And the moment you switch retries on, you need it, because a retry is by definition a second run. And here is the concrete version of it. Before your workflow does anything expensive or irreversible, which means sending an invoice, charging a card, sending an email, or creating a record, you check whether you have already done that exact thing for that exact item. So give every incoming item a stable identifier, a record ID, an email address, an order number, or anything that does not change between runs. Then, immediately before the expensive step, look that identifier up in a simple table, a Postgres row, an Airtable record, a Redis key. It does not matter which. If it is already there, you stop. If it is not, you do the work and then write it. And that is 4 extra nodes, and those 4 nodes are the only thing standing between you and charging somebody's customer twice. So that is trap. You trap the failure, you retry what is transient, you alert yourself with the payload attached, and you protect against duplicates. Now let me tell you what this actually changes, because it was never really about error handling. Every automation you ship for a client is a promise that something will keep happening without anybody watching it. That promise is what they are paying for, not the workflow and not the nodes, the absence of worry. And the moment one of them fails silently, you have not just broken a workflow, you have broken the specific reason they hired you, and they will remember that far longer than they ever remembered it working. So these 4 patterns are not maintenance, and they are not housekeeping. They are the product. Anyone can build the happy path. A template can build the happy path. What you are actually selling is that 90 seconds when the API goes down and nothing bad happens and nobody ever finds out, including you. I have put all 4 patterns into a free pack, the error workflow as an importable file, the retry settings I use, the Gmail alert node with the subject line and payload already mapped, and a 1-page checklist to run before any workflow touches a client account. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. One last thing before you go, tell me in the comments what the worst silent failure you have ever shipped was. Not the loud ones that broke immediately, the one that ran wrong for days before anybody noticed. I read all of them, and honestly, they are where most of these videos come from.